Oh. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, what do we got going on today? Doesn't look like too much is going on. Wait for some people to get in. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Everybody hear me? Yep. Hey Tom, what's going on? Paper hand. Technically it's Thomas, not Tom. I don't know if we sound a lot or not. Good morning. Gonna let a couple extra people hop on before we get started. Double check some stuff. Get started around 7:20. Ask any questions or any things that you guys have in the chat here. Hopefully you got your morning coffee like I do. Make a whole pot and let's see. All right, X on watch. What do I think of pens? Good morning. What do you think of Nokia? Yeah, man. Cool. All right, so I guess we will, just take it one step at a time. So yesterday, everybody knows the Fed released their July meeting minutes. They kept interest rates the same. And ultimately said, hey, we're looking at tapering. Now, for those that don't know what tapering is essentially the cutting back or pulling back of asset purchases. So when the pandemic started, there were multiple ways the Fed could support the economy and throw cash in, right? Treasury on the other side of the U.S. government, being a U.S. government, they are the ones that printed, fiscal policy, right? Congress did fiscal policy. They're the ones that said, hey, print stimulus checks for everybody. But the Fed actually is a completely independent organization that has a direct mandate from Congress, right? So Congress gave them the mandate, but they do not report to Congress in any way. So the Fed basically says, we're going to try and get inflation average around 2%. They want unemployment around 3%. Unemployment still at probably 6 or 7%, depending upon which one you look at. Underemployment is the more important rate there. Anyways, when the pandemic started, the Fed decided to buy $80 billion in mortgage-backed securities and $60 billion in treasuries, I believe. So they're just talking about basically bringing back some of the treasuries. So let me see if I can pull up the M2 money stock here. So essentially, what you're looking at on this chart is the amount of money supply in the economy at one time, right? So obviously, if you go back to 2008, right? So I mean, it already had a parabolic increase, and so I mean, I can throw on this real quick and just see how close we get. But like the increase in M2 money stock in the past, what is that? Since 1950 has been almost 10,000%, which is insane if you think about it. So it's a crazy world we live in. Anyways, Fed's going to leave it where it's at for now. Interest rates, at least, they're going to start looking at tapering. I think they're going to make some sort of announcement starting next month. They have the Fed meetings called Jackson Hole Symposium, which is in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where a ton of the top heads of economics will meet. All right, so y'all probably are tired of hearing about that. Let's see what we got. Yeah, so actually Ford came out with really great earnings, surprisingly. I think being in the EV sector now, they're going to continue to, let's see, put on some extended hours. Yeah, so it looks strong. I mean, this is the 15-minute chart. You can see what I see. You see a bullish run up here, bullish run up, flagging here, a breakout up here, consolidation around the 1450 area, roughly 1450s. Anytime there's some sort of like hard set of $1 point or a half a dollar point, basically if it's $15, $14, $13, those are major resistance regardless if the price is traded there. It's just a psychological level. So let me look at one thing on Ford. So always go back to the daily when you're looking at larger, or you're looking at earnings moves, right? So I want to see what the general trend is, right? We can see the general trend kind of follows this mean average, I guess you could say. It goes above, below, but it always kind of reverts back to the mean. So right now we're popping off at 1456. There's going to be major resistance here, as you see, around 1450 to 1460. So it'll be interesting if Ford can break that. If it does, it can rise to maybe 1490-ish, and it breaks that, it can go up to about probably 1530. So, yep. A lot of stuff should be up today. Yeah. So like Carnival Cruise Lines should in effect be up. They popped pre-market here. You can kind of see that it's been struggling around this 2350 range. But what's cool to see for Carnival is it's forming an inverse head and shoulders. So I hate this extended hours, so I apologize. With Carnival here on the 65-minute, I think I've written a excerpt of why I do not like the 1 hour, right? Some people use the 1 hour time frame. Well, the reason is the last candle of the day, so like this candle right here yesterday, was technically only 30 minutes of trading, right? So here's, so it goes, obviously you can see in the bottom right here, it's 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11, 12, 13. Well, then obviously it goes to 14:30, but the market closes at 4 Eastern or 3 p.m. my time Central. So that's just 30 minutes of trading. So it's not always accurate, but when you put a 65-minute on, it makes sure each of the candles in a time period had the same amount of time to develop. So that's one of the reasons I like it. Anyways, Carnival's got this sort of ugly inverse head and shoulders forming here. So if it can break this downtrend, you can kind of see a inverse head and shoulders forming here and probably pop back up to $27, $28 in the near term. Obviously, you have a lot of resistance there, roughly around 24. But again, that's still a marginal area that you can make a good trade on. What's up, Hasib? I'm actually in MRIN. I don't know, Marin software. Let's find it real quick. So Marin. Yeah, I drew this yesterday, but let's see. Changes to make it easier to view. So I actually like this falling wedge right here. Anytime, and I've noticed this in a lot of high growth names, you have a massive run up. Obviously, you've seen like NEO and Tesla and things. It sells off, finds a bottom, bounces, and comes back down. I mean, that's just a generic ABC. So let me. Where's my? There it is. So just be like an A, B, and C. Then obviously more than often it will probably do an A, B, C, D, E. So it'd go like an A, B, C, D, E, and it's probably going to come down one more time. but went ahead and made a starter position because you never know when names like this will run, especially with short interest like that. So in voice questions real quick, I'm going to run a short interest command or the float command to see what Marin's at right now. Let's see, it's roughly at, short float at 20% right now, so there's a 20% short ratio. Obviously, short squeezes are going to be a little bit different after the AMC thing, but, it still has a lot of people short. Who's giving the conference? I'm guessing you're asking about the Jackson Hole Symposium. So let me, Jackson Hole Symposium. So if you go to the Kansas City Fed's website, I'll post it up here real quick. I don't know why this happens. Let's see. So here, basically all it is just a Fed meeting, right? Federal Reserve Bank. They're putting it on. So you have different Fed banks. I think there's 12 or 13 across the United States. One in New York, there's one in Atlanta. There's one obviously in Kansas City. There's a few out west. But it basically is just a huge get-together conference that the Fed puts on. They come together and talk about it, all the heads, government, Federal Reserve, media, central bankers, academics, financial organizations. You can see this. Just do some research on yourself and read it. It's really interesting to see. A lot of good content will come out of this in the sense of economics-wise. So yeah. All right. Roku 2. Man, y'all are just like nailing with the charts today, aren't y'all? Oh, any questions about like economics, macros, anything that I'm well versed in? I can look at charts. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not a Tom or an Avery. Let's see what the markets are doing right now. Bouncing back up. Interesting. What's crazy to see now is like these Chinese stocks are finally getting a rebound. Like I said yesterday, I noticed. Hey, what does this look like in the chat, guys? Like boom, boom, boom. Inverse head and shoulders, gapped up. What is this? All the way to 71. I played puts on Baidu here. I played puts on this major gap down, saw a bear flag forming, played them down to the bottom, got out right around here. I saw the break on the 15-minute 9 EMA, break above, and it's been holding this 15 EMA the entire way down. I played calls here because I knew, obviously, I saw this forming. It's going to have to make an island bottom reversal. It reversed here, turned into an inverse head and shoulders, continue to play calls, and we're going to be back up here. Now that this inverse head and shoulders has officially, played out, I don't know where we go from here. But I knew that Chinese stocks, especially like Baidu and Baba, were going to have some sort of bounce, especially after falling 10% in a couple days. It's just a technical rebound. Island reversal. Thank you, Darian. I said that. I don't know the flow and SQ. Go into the Discord and run the command flow SQ. There's your answer. TNA, yeah, that's a leveraged ETF if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so small cap. Yeah, small caps are actually really interesting right now. You're seeing some sector rotation. In my opinion, this what we're seeing right here in this box, roughly in this area, is we're just seeing a distribution, right? We saw this happen in previous. Let me pull up a week chart. We've seen this happen in previous downturns, and we've also seen it happen in previous upturns. Now, I'm not saying this is the end, but if you go and look at this, right, consolidation, dumped in early 2011 for small caps, but again, regained. It doesn't retest usually the bottom, but it's just called distribution essentially. So stocks are just getting essentially distributed to different owners, meaning they're just becoming impatient at these levels. They think they got enough profit, going to sell. So I think IWM could, in a market correction, will probably come back down to 180, 200 probably. But again, that's just small caps. Doesn't mean that's for the entire market. SPY is a different story. I mean, this thing's just gone straight up for way too long. I have a rising wedge driven here. Obviously, if you look at the weekly chart, SPY always comes back down to touch this is the 200 EMA. So I think it's going to eventually come back down to touch. I know people say I'm crazy, but I mean, what is that? Roughly a 30% drop. So yeah, I mean, roughly equivalent to a market drop. But again, this is the reason for dollar cost averaging and investing, right? If I'd have bought in for COVID down here, do I think the markets will ever get back down to 220, 228 for at least for SPY, back down to the 230, 240 area? Sure, I think it eventually if something happens and a black swan event happens, that's going to come. And obviously you see during COVID, we thought this was going to be a broadening wedge. It broke out above, so they continue to be bullish here. That's why you see this massive movement. Volume, though, has just been consistent. I guess not really crazy, but obviously you see on the sell-offs there's more volume. That's just generally how it happens. That's a good indicator that Dougie likes to preach is on these massive sell-offs you see this volume basically drop off the shelf and then it rebounds on little to no volume. It's always interesting to see. Let's see. Any other questions or anything I can help out with? I know I mentioned the chat. Let's see, people are tagging me real quick. Duh, it's a very big correction. PFE, yeah, so Pfizer's actually interesting. No one really knows how much the government's paying there for their contracts. I mean, they can say how much they're wanting to get for their vaccines, how much they're wanting to do this, and this, but ultimately no one really knows. They can come out and say the government's sponsoring them or the government's subsidizing this, and they may give you a price, but that doesn't give you for every single country in the entire world. You have no idea how much money Pfizer will make, but they've also had to spend a lot of money on the distribution, the development. So there's trade-offs here and there. Just to always note, obviously. Pfizer, again, I'm not one, my type of trading style, I have a hard time buying stocks at this level right here, especially if it's peaked out before at a level like 43.80, especially this. Now, I will grant it, if you see this, this is a long time coming cup, handle, and it continued to break out here. So, I think Pfizer has it in it to do that because of the COVID vaccine. But the time to buy was back in 2008 and 2009 when it was $15, but you could still play this breakout. Again, this is a weekly chart, and look how far Pfizer is away from moving averages, especially on the daily. Like, it's having this curl upwards. I think it's eventually going to come back down to test. Avery and Tom might get mad at me, but oh well. AMD is actually interesting. As I noted on the small cap IWM, the index, it's just sitting in this range, like basically distributing. I would like to see AMD break above the previous resistance, but right now all I'm seeing is a double top on the daily. Obviously you can see some sort of cup handle form, breakout above. That was an easy trade. I think Seeb was all over that, or Air Drake. But we're seeing this, again, I'd like to see a clean break of the previous resistance of maybe just get over $100 is what I would want to see, personally. Aeon, I hadn't heard that in forever. Setting new all-time highs, don't really know much about it. Just start drawing random trend lines. Okay, it's bouncing right around there. Resistance has been here traditionally. It's broken out twice now. Yeah, so GDP's out. Speaking of that, GDP's out. 6.5%. The consensus was 8.4. Let's see how the markets are reacting real quick. Coming off, let's see. Yeah, obviously GDP, you want GDP to beat by a marginal percentage. But with COVID, GDP is normally 2 to 3 to 4%. Like, we've seen even 1% growth in the past in like 15, 16, and 17. So that's actually interesting to see GDP down from what it initially was. I think Delta variant's having an inverse effect, as people thought it would. Jobless claims to 400,000. Wow. They were 20,000 above. Continuing claims still up. Yeah. Again, the hardest problem right now for the Fed is the labor market. The labor market right now is really tough. The unemployment, well, more importantly, the underemployment rate is still probably 10, 11%. I'll have to check my math on that and double check that. But generically, when the underemployment rate is that high, which looks at people that aren't working, choose not to work, are trying to work but can't find a job, it gets pretty tough to make those people go back to work, especially after you've had government handouts. And I'm not knocking that. I think there's a critical component of helping people in the time of need. Don't get me wrong. But a major Biden economic advisor stated that the enhanced government supplements basically stimulus and extra payments they were getting on unemployment made people not want to go back to work. And that's just the problem in today's labor market. There's also a lot of reskilling problems. That's another reason. A lot of people are wanting to change their career paths, which is nice. I think that's great. Eventually this was going to happen, and I think COVID has accelerated that from like a 10-year process into 2 or 3 years, and I think we're going to see a lot of that happen. If you want to switch careers, now is the time. Plenty of job opportunities out there. And now's the best time to start a business. The work from home obviously has been exacerbated by the pandemic, but also being able to start your own business on Fiverr or Upstart or whatever. Above expectations there, Drake? No, not that I see. The PCE index 6.1 in 2Q. Consumer spending up Consumer spending 11.8% in second Q. Wow, the Nikola founder Milton is charged with making false statements in Nikola. And look at that chart, boys. Woo! That's what we like to see right there. Frauds. Yeah, no, I'm not knocking the stimulus checks. I think that was a great thing to happen. Obviously, we saw what happened in 08 and 09. Paolo, I believe is how you say your name. In 08, 09, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Big Short or Too Big to Fail, but what happened was they basically gave the money to the banks and said trickle it down. Well, the banks just shored up their own balance sheets and paid for executive bonuses, and it never trickled down, right? You always hear the term trickle down economics. I'm not a component for that. I'm not one way or the other, but I think it was time for a different try. We needed to try something different. And so I think this way, it could have been a lot worse if we did not have stimulus from Fed and from the U.S. Treasury. So I think they did their job. They helped people get through it. Now, granted, it was 3 checks for $1,200 or $1,400, whatever it was. I don't think it's, especially for different places around the country, right? I'm from Alabama. $1,400 can go a long way in Alabama. But you go to California, $1,400 is like half a month's rent. In Alabama, that could be almost 2 months' rent. So it just differs around the country of how much it helped. And that's why it's always such a highly controversial topic. Let's see, Nikola, man. Imagine that. So, yeah. SPY's not doing much. I think the GDP was expected. It's COVID. Let's see. All right, I don't know if anybody else has any more questions. If there's any more questions, throw them in there. I'm going to stop streaming here soon. Just going to get a little pre-market in. Let's check out the pre-market movers real quick. Pre-market movers. I love MarketWatch has this pre-market screener that kind of tells you, all right, CTSH. I don't know if anybody's ever into trading like small caps and stuff, but see this, I wouldn't touch. Just way too choppy. What else they got? NFE. Nope. Look for high volume, so 2. Ford, wow. Yeah, so Ford's interesting. Ford's owned by like 80% institutions. Look, I don't have to do every ticker you guys tell me, by the way. Look, I've already gone over Chinese stocks, inverse head and shoulders, formed an island reversal. I played calls. I'll get out today. Done. VTRS, let's see, it's pumping on relatively okay volume. Yeah, nothing crazy. So this morning looked kind of dead. Citrix Systems, wow. CTXS, let's see. Wow. Wonder what the news on this is. Interesting. I mean, that's a massive drop off. What, that 20-something%, maybe 18. Interesting to see that. Let's try on a 4 hour. Wow, that broke a lot of support right there. My goodness. I mean, that's back to 2019 levels. did you update your swings? I've never seen them. Yeah, so one of my swings actually was QDEL. So I called QDEL out right about here, around this area. I saw a double bottom. It bounced up, had a lot of good volume. It was going to make a 1-2, 1-2. I mean, I called it out around 120. Now it topped out at 150 a couple days ago, and it's going to continue bouncing. It's holding this 9 EMA really well on the daily. On the weekly, it probably looks even better. Good, very bullish bounce. Both times you had a week that broke below the 200 EMA on the weekly chart. Broke right above, continued to get this. 9 EMA on the weekly is curling back up. Same thing on the daily. The 9 just crossed the 20-day EMA here. It's huge. Now it's rejected off that 200-day there, but eventually it's just waiting for these extra EMAs to catch up. What am I looking at? Today I'm just going to kind of trade light. I don't think there's anything crazy unless some news comes out. Besides, I guess, maybe some like cruise lines looking nice. Airlines, we'll see. And I'm waiting to see really. On airlines here, they're just kind of consolidating in this area between 26 and 19 really, just in this area. I'm waiting for a break either way. Break down below 18 or 19, or a break below 20, or break above 26, excuse me. Yeah, I know I was doing Nicola because they had news. Nokia, I mean, look, ever since the Nokia squeeze happened, in air quotes, back to this day, like, I don't understand why Wall Street Bets goes after, like, high market value companies with a lot of shares outstanding. Like, Nokia is a multi-billion-dollar company, number one. Number two, they have, like, millions and millions and millions of shares outstanding. So I have no idea why they're trying to target them. Now, I haven't checked the earnings. I don't know what this breakaway gap is here, but it looks like if it could break above 657, it could go. I mean, let's look at the monthly chart because Nokia is an older company. I mean, like, relatively speaking, you're never going to get back to these levels. Nokia is not what it once was, but you can see where it wicked out there on purpose. Almost like a, let's see. Yeah, something like this is what I can see happening. Just consolidating in this huge, huge, huge flag, and then going from there. You like my style. Swings. I posted QDEL or QDEL and Plutus. I don't, like Tom and Avery, they have a lot of ideas. I wait until I have a good idea. Like one of the coolest. That's not it. What was the ticker? There was a good ticker, Rollins. I love trading this swinging, because this thing's very consistent. Like right here, didn't even notice it. I didn't have an alert set. But this is something I would swing trade maybe, right? It was in this consolidation pattern, flagging downwards, bouncing around. It bounces above, breaks out, it retests here, and so you could probably see this. Once this gets over maybe $38 is when I would want to get interested, because that could be a good swing back up to the resistance here, 40. This is another test right here, right? This is exactly what it did last year, 2 years ago. Did this, and you can see right here, it broke above, retested here, and then it went on this major bull run. So, again, that was during COVID, so it has to have another reason. This ticker is ROL. I meant to put on the water hair, or whatever it's called. What is that called? Watermark, excuse me. ROL. ATVI was another one I was looking at, right? Long-term investing, obviously we've seen a lot of pennants break recently. So it broke down out of this pennant, especially on the lawsuit with the frat boy type of work. What we haven't seen in a while is it breaking and holding below this 200 EMA on the daily. Now, it'll be interesting to see on the weekly if it's broken. Yeah, so it broke to 20 on the weekly, which has only happened once. So I want to see what happens next week, and if it bounces back. If it doesn't, I might go short on it or play it down to this level right around 75. I don't really like to play short on stocks that I like to invest in. Obviously, back in 2019, 2018, the tech market sell-off, you could have gotten it for $45 a share. And then obviously during COVID, this major run-up here was just due to everybody's playing games at home 90% of the time when in quarantine. So, Yeah. All right. Well, if anybody have any more questions, I think I'm gonna hop off. Just kind of checking out markets this morning, seeing what's going on. Again, not too much. Kind of just chilling right now. Nothing major. I was expecting GDP to be more of a major movement event, but it still looks like SPY could be holding a diamond top. I don't know if anybody's ever heard or seen of these. It's one of my. I'll post the link again in Standard Education. But if you check um, the pinned messages in Standard Education, diamond top is one of the most highly profitable and one of the easiest to trade off of from breaking downwards, right? So it'll consolidate in this move here and then break downwards. Now, again, I'm not a future seer, but this has happened multiple times. You see it here. Diamond breaks down. We saw it. This was a larger one, you could say technically. And then, I mean, it just happens all the time. So you just need to look at it and find it. There'd be one here. So, I mean, just in generically speaking, diamond tops are highly profitable, especially on market indexes. So, yeah. All right. If anybody have more questions, I will catch y'all later. Happy trading, smart trading. Be smart. Let's get it today.